Alright, in this video we're going to talk about basics of what is evolution and how do we know that this is happening, because a pretty big thing in biology is talking about how things change over time. Basic terms in terms of biology is that we are all related to one another, right? Every living organism today descended from parents who have survived and reproduced, and you can follow that pattern back millions and millions of generations. So that basically we are all related as a very simplified version of saying we all animals, plants, bacteria, all living things change over time. One of the ways that we know we change over time, so talking about a couple big pieces of evidence, is the easiest of fossils, right? Fossils are plants, animals, bacteria that are pretty much set in stone. They're crystallized. We can see that we have leaves that are fossilized, entire animals. Think about the dinosaurs, the T-Rex, you have people. And as you go down further, you can see slow and older changes. Like literally, if we look at our top layer rocks and compare that with animals 10 feet under that, we notice some changes that we can literally see animals that are changing over time. If we look at humans, I know the skull image is not the best here, but where my mouse is, our current modern day man. And as I go left, if you look at the skull size, that we are getting smaller and smaller skulls. Not only that, if you look at the snout, the projection in the front, we notice that's becoming more outward, almost more monkey-like, because those are our closest living ancestors. From here to here, not many changes, right? There's a slight change in size. Coloration's different, obviously. But here to here is not big differences. But if I keep on going back in time, small changes eventually add up, and I get very, very large changes. We can talk about in the fossil record, we have something called a transitional fossil, which is this bird here. But actually, it's not a bird. It looks like a bird because it has wings, but when archaeologists look at this, it has a lot of reptile features, where this is technically classified as a reptile. Because if animals turn into different animals, if they changed over time, we should see kind of a middle ground, right? And that's exactly what we see. Is sometimes we see transitional fossils that show half characteristics of one animal, like a reptile, turning into a different species, a bird. Another easy example to look at is how we know we've changed over time is looking inside of our own body. Is sometimes we have structures called vestigial structures in which you have something in your body that basically has no use. And if you think about it, evolution would not put something into your body without needing a function. Classic example, if you look at the whale actually has a small pelvis and a femur, and in your body, they are right here. Those are your leg bones. So we kind of look at this and say, why would our whale have a leftover small pelvis? Why would they have a femur? Well, it's because they used to walk on land, and if that sounds wild to you, whales are mammals. They breathe air. They are warm-blooded. Where do all other air-breathing, warm-blooded mammals live? Well, that breathe air, they live on the land. We have wisdom teeth. We have an extra tail. We have our tailbone. We have our appendix. We have the hair that stands up on our arms. Those are all vestigial structures saying that, hey, we inherited this and it used to be useful, but it just doesn't have a purpose in us today. In terms of structures that we see today, there's also something called homologous structures. Homo means the same, so if you look at a good example would be the vertebrate forearm, basically the legs and arms of animals. Notice that if they're color coordinated, that I have one bone, followed by two bones, followed by a handful of wrist bones, followed by finger bones. It does not matter what real animal you're looking at, is they all basically have the same pattern. They have the same order of bones. Now, they're a very similar setup, but they have slightly different functions, right? Easy to see that a bat's fingers are so much longer than ours because it helps it fly. A whale's bones, well, they're going to be so much thicker than ours because it helps them swim, right? It just kind of provides evidence, like if we didn't come from one another, how would we have the exact same order of bones in our arms? Another thing is muscles. Muscles can be homologous, where your biceps help flex, meaning move your arm towards the center of your body. Other animals have biceps and triceps and similar muscles as well. They have similar organs to us. Even DNA, we can have some genes that are homologous One additional piece of evidence of evolution is embryology, where if you look at developing organisms, something known as an embryo, this right here, what I'm circling my mouse, this is actually a human. I know it doesn't look very human-like, but given more time, it will develop into a full person. Notice that when we begin, we actually do start off with this little tail-like structure. When you come over here, going back to this, because our common ancestors, think about monkeys and apes, some of them have tails. Very early on, a couple weeks, we develop with something called pharyngeal slits. Now, in aquatic creatures, they develop into gills, but in humans, we only have these for a couple days, maybe a week or two, and then they fuse into your windpipe. And we kind of look at this and say, well, how do we all look the same? If we did not come from one another, if we did not evolve from one another, how likely is it for us to develop in an almost identical way, at least for a couple weeks while we were developing? It just wouldn't be likely. And one of our last pieces is basically just looking at DNA. We have a lot of DNA in common with other species. We share 98 point something percent of our DNA is the exact same as some chimpanzees in the monkey family. We share a lot of DNA similar with dogs, with monkeys. We even share DNA with frogs. Now, as you get further away, like towards the fishes, you share less DNA in common with those, but you still have DNA in common. A common fact I use in class is that we share 50% of our DNA with a banana. Does that make me 50% banana? No. But bananas are living things. They are made of cells, just like I am made of cells. Those cells have different parts in them, like mitochondria and the nucleus, similar to my cells. So those DNA segments, well, that's needed in the banana, is also needed in me. And we can see that when we are more closely related, like mammals to mammals, fish to fish, that those A's, T's, G's, and C's, that genetic code, that we share more of. And if we didn't come from one another, if we did not all evolve from one another, how would we share so much DNA with these living things? How would we all use the exact same genetic code? Wouldn't be that possible or that likely. If you guys want to see something that's kind of puts everything in relationship to all of these pieces of evidence, but talking about specifically the whale, this is a YouTube video. Feel free to search it up for a better explanation.